Hi everybody, welcome back to Main Mission Hope, and something a little bit different this time. And that is an introduction to what I call my Samaritan bag. Now, this may well seem a little bit crazy, but I recently went on another first aid course. Basically, because of my job, I go on a first aid course. I think it's every 3 years, I think, to stay up to date with first aid. And it kind of coincided, well, a couple of months after kind of my reawakening back to Christianity. And being there in a St John's Ambulance first aid training course, you know, with St John's Ambulance and the cross everywhere, it came to me. I suddenly thought it's a real gift being able to do first aid and potentially save someone's life. But the person who was running the first aid course kind of said, well, you can have these little kits that you carry around with you, like gloves and a respirator aid and stuff like that, so that if you come across something in public outside of the workplace, you could do something too. And I thought, I wouldn't mind being able to do something more. So if I was in a situation where I was outside and something happened where I could respond and have some kit on me that could help in that situation, then maybe I should do that. But also the fact that maybe I could have like a spiritual first aid stuff with me as well. So I wanted to kind of bring those ideas together. And I've got to admit, one of the craziest ideas was the fact that, and you'll see with some of the kit that is in here, which is a bit over the top, well, one piece of kit is anyway, was the idea that if someone died and they hadn't been christened, okay, and they hadn't, accepted the word of God or something like that, or that they wanted to but didn't have the chance to, if by some small effort I could help them survive, that would be a really good thing. So there was that as well. So this is just, it's just an old, I think this is an old camera bag I had actually that's in pretty good nick. So what have we got? So I've actually got a little torch that I put on one end. So again, if something happens in the dark, I can use that and that can pull that off. Funny, at this end, this is my decade rosary. So what I do is when I'm driving to work, I take this off and then I do a decade of Hail Marys, which is a nice way to prepare for work. So if we open up the flap, this is where we get to the kind of the first aid stuff in here. So what we have in here, this is an official St John's Ambulance first aid kit. Now, when I'm doing this, I don't mean I'm going to get involved. Say someone falls over on the road in front of me and they've got like a little cut in the knee. I'm not going to dive in. If it's a kind of a normal person, go, let me put a plaster on that. But say it was an old person who needed some help, then there's stuff in here that I could use. There's plasters, but there's also things like burn pads. There's some nice big bandages as well, and dressings that could be used for really serious cuts and serious wounds as well. And there's obviously the revive aids and gloves. So that's kind of good. And then also what we've got in here for the more serious stuff, there is a tourniquet. Now a tourniquet would only ever be used in a situation where someone who was properly trained could use it, or I was told by a dispatcher over the phone that it's okay to use a tourniquet, because obviously if you use a tourniquet in the wrong situation, people can lose limbs. But the idea behind this is, say there was a road traffic accident or a serious accident, and I saw it happening, and I would go over and there was already someone like a paramedic there who was off duty, but who didn't have all the kit right there and then. I could say, look, this is what I've got. What do you want? Here's some gloves. Here's a tourniquet. Here's some bandages. All that sort of stuff. You can see there's the pen in there so you can write the time on it. And then in this corner, we've kind of got some eye wash, just in case, I don't know, say someone's had an acid, well not acid, but say someone got some chemicals in their eye and an eye wash was needed. Again, that would be under instruction from the dispatcher. I'm not going to do anything that I'm not trained to do, but just having the kit would be there. And then in the front here, we have some of the other stuff. So, rather importantly, there's aspirin. If somebody's having a heart attack, and again, I would ask them, are you allowed to, are you having a heart attack? Yes, I think I am. Have you got your medication with you? No. Are you allowed to take aspirin? Yes. There you go. And also under the instructions of a dispatcher as well. There's some Piriton there for allergies. And then we have some sugar sweets for someone, again, who say they were having low blood sugar levels. Again, it would be a case if they were saying, I need sweets. Okay, so you're allowed to have sweets, yes, okay. Or the dispatcher was saying, no, you can give them sugar tablets. That's basically what they are for that situation. I think that's it, actually, in the front. And that's it for the kind of the first aid stuff. And then in here, actually, if we go back to here, that's my Bible in there. That's my everyday Bible, so I can whip that out and have a read a bit. Or if somebody wanted it, if I would say sat down with someone and we were talking about Christianity, and they would say, oh, I wish I had a Bible, a full Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, I would give them that. So this is my kind of spiritual first aid bit in here. So what we've got in here these are 2 mini pocket New Testaments with Psalms. So again, if I was having a chat with somebody and they were showing interest, I said, well, have you got a Bible? No, I haven't. I tell you what, I have one of these. So we've got those in there as well. These little wooden holding crosses, again, having a chat with somebody, or maybe someone where I just thought it was appropriate. Oh, well, yes, okay. Could I offer you one of these? These are made from olive wood from the Holy Land, so there's a few in there as well, which are nice little things, maybe especially for older people who have trouble holding stuff. You can pop one of these in their hands, but again, it's a nice link that way. There's a notepad. Actually, that's really for first aid stuff, but that can go in there. That's my prayer book that that when I'm at mass and trying to remember the words, I use that. But again, I could give that to someone else. What's that here? Oh, how to become a Catholic. That's a little leaflet if someone wants to know how to become a Catholic. And there we have, that is that's a rosary in there as well. I know it's difficult to see, but there's a full rosary in there if somebody's interested in the rosary. And there is a rosary book. So again, if somebody said, oh, I fancy having a go at the rosary, I said, well, look, there's a rosary, there's a book telling you how to do it. And then what else have we got? More crosses. I think that's a guide to doing the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer. I think that's it, actually. What's that? Oh yeah, that's a stay dry thing. So there we go. So that's kind of the idea. You can say we've got first aid for St. John's Ambulance sort of first aid stuff and for serious stuff, and then we've got some nice religious first aid where just really if I'm not an evangelizer, but say I was sitting there and someone was said, oh, you go to mass, what's all this religious thing? Well, blah blah, and they go, oh, that's really quite interesting. I'm quite interested in that. Oh, you're interested in that? All right, can I interest you? Would you mind if I gave you a Bible and a little cross? Plant those mustard seeds. Oh yeah, that's very nice. But I'm not forcing them on people. It's really for that sort of situation. So what do you think? Am I crazy? Is this a nice little idea? Am I mad to lug this thing around with me all of the time? It does get heavy when I put a couple of cans in there as well. Soft drink cans for work, that sort of thing. But there we go. This is my Good Samaritan's bag for first aid, physical first aid and spiritual first aid as well. Anyway, this is from me. Thank you very much for watching, and of course I'll see you again soon.